Does this background appear to be made up, Warren?
Everything after 13 years seems quite legit, but before then, and the fuzziness of his background does reek of someone who's tried to cover his tracks up.
Yeah, like someone almost has like assembled this, and it's almost like too good to be true. Like nobody has anything bad to say about it.
Like everything is perfect. No. Like all that is true. Like everything that like does nothing bad with him. He's like a complete advocate for human rights and meta-human rights, meta-sapien rights. Everything seems completely legitimate. It's the only thing that seems fuzzy is his background. Like when you look up his public records, it looks as if there's some very clear things that like jump out with some deep searches that his name could be fake, where he's born could be fake. You're not even sure if his age is correct, things like that. If you hadn't met the man in person, you wouldn't even be sure if he was a human white male. So everything is spotless except his background and public files of where he came from.
Would we be able to tell if there's anyone that left any like records of fiddling with the records? Like is there like a signature kind of thing to it?
Not so much, and especially not after this long. It would be another check altogether, really.
Okay.
But not like a matrix search. How would you use it? Let me see. What skill would you use?
Could we spend one of the questions on asking what's his relationship with magic?
Yep, just a sec. You would actually need skills in forgery to be able to discern anything from it.
I don't think I have forgery.
Yeah, well, it could be anyone, because you could just show it them, so if anyone has forgery.
One of the few skills I did not pick up.
One of the few skills that are useless.
Oh, came up here. So you wanna use one of the the fifth thing to see if he has any? Okay. Relationship with magic. Alright. So he is known to have a particular interest in mages and the awakened, and just awakened in general. He seems to be part of he's part of like every advocacy group you could imagine, but in particular he seems to have a very subtle interest, or like the more you look at his pattern of interests or what he gets involved in, he seems to lean slightly to more towards the awakened than other advocacy groups. So basically he's against mega corporations, basically indenturing slave mages, basically, and a lot of other things. He's in favor of dual-natured creatures gaining rights and like a lot of other things. So he does seem to lean towards the awakened more than he does anyone else, but you can only realize this by looking at the patterns, basically.
Do we want to use a question to find out if he has any connections to other like known awakened or influential awakened?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to suggest a question about his like known contacts, people he associates with, that maybe whilst he's whiter and white, maybe they're not.
Okay.
Where did the white?
Give me a second. Okay, so you do know to some degrees he does seem to have some correspondence, or at least has been seen in public, with a bit more snooping. He's been seen in public with people who are members of various magical organizations or circles, mostly to do with Christian theology and things like that. Like basically, mages who practice Christian. The Christian tradition, basically. He does seem to have a number of mages that he considers to be his close friends, and they are part of various societies. Some of them public, some of them a little less public.
Could we do a search on one of the little less public people?
Search one of his cronies.
Shadier cronies.
So you're looking up one of his cronies, yeah?
One of the.
Actually, Warren, could I assist her in that? Give her a couple extra dice?
Yeah.
So you can roll 2 more dice if you want, Kicks.
So, like, roll it again. Or.
Oh, you could just roll 2 dice right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so 4 hits.
Okay, so one name in particular from his list of known associates, or at least past associates, one of them jumps to mind. He was a member of the Sylvestine monks, and his name is Nathaniel de Leon, and he led a small group of them during the Aslantean Amazonian War. All of them ended up dead except himself, um, as they tried to basically act as caregivers and use magic to heal people who were injured during the war and things like that. However, this angered a great deal of the Aslantean people, or the Aslantean army, or well, the generals and stuff who caught them. Basically killed them all except him, and he basically dropped off the map. This Nathaniel guy. After that, not much is heard of him. He basically disappeared. It's presumed the last thing he was doing was recruiting more members to go to war-torn areas to try and relieve, injury and things like that. But he was a well-known member of a certain Christian order of magic users, which has sort of regrouped in this era that a lot of people thought were essentially gone a long time ago, or at least it's a new incarnation of the same people, but he was a member of the Knights Templar.
Sound racist as fuck, to be honest.
Oh god. I don't know if Warren's using the Shadowrun universe fully, but that would mean he's Black Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what that means.
They're like the evil fucking
Black mages.
we're gonna take over the world from the shadows mage society.
They're racist as fuck.
Yeah, and they were the Black Templar. Black Templars? I'm fucking 40k. They
Knight
were the
Templar.
Yeah, they were the Knights Templar, the Freemasons, the Illuminati. That's all the Black Lodge.
Alright.
Well, the organization, the public one that this guy is a member of, was known as the Knights Templar. And it was a new age group, of Christian magic users who go to war-torn areas to supposedly heal people, and it seems like that's more or less what they do. But they always seem to go to areas which involve the use of less orthodox magic.
Do you want to
Yeah,
search on that organization, Kix? I could help you.
Yes, please.
Second run, and we're involved with the Black Lodge. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So assuming you have 4 or more ranks in computer, you get a +4. Nice.
Alright, are me and Giant moving bodies right now, or...
Nope, don't you dare.
No, not yet. I'm just swinging my shovel around.
Okay.
Okay, so you do find a few mentions of this organization called the Knight Templar. They do have a public thing. They seem to be a rather private society to a great degree. But what you can find publicly about them is they seem to be a Christian group, like I said, of awakened people who focuses in Christian theology and uses it to go to war-torn areas to heal people. Supposedly this is what they do. It's basically like the Red Cross of the future, except with Christian, sort of background and based in magic. Yeah. So they go to war-torn areas. They've gone to some of the bloodiest since the Awakening, basically, and they've been very involved in a great deal of things. Looking through it again, because you've got 5 degrees, you can see yet again a pattern where they go. They tend to go to areas where, as I said, less orthodox magic is used. Places where Aslan, which made rampant use of blood magic in certain cases. Places where toxic mages were known to have influences. Things like that. They seem to They do go to other areas, but the more you look at the pattern, like I said again, they seem to focus on areas where darker, less respected or reputable magic seems to have been used. They themselves, you do find they have various links to some mega corporations, not the big, AAA ones, but like A-rated ones or subsidiaries of them and things like that. And they're loosely associated with a bunch of organizations But other than that, you can't get much more than that. But there's definitely a lot more shadowy things to it than you guys, on the outside. With a bit of snooping and like a bit of know-how, you find that like they're connected to some less than scrupulous, organizations basically. On the outside, they look gleaming, just like Father Diedrich himself. But the more you dig, like the less so.
Patterns start to emerge.
Yeah, there's no concise or like. No matter how hard you look, you can find no direct information that they were ever involved in anything like dirty. But the people they're associating with are not known to, do anything out of the charity of their heart or anything like that.
It looks like they got a good cover, but
even if we don't find out exactly what they're up to, I think it's safe to say that Father Dietrich is not getting these bones.
We should move them somewhere
yeah,
else.
that's a fair assumption.
I agree to move them to somewhere where no one's gonna find them, and perhaps maybe bring back some other bones and just like get our money before he figures out that these are not the bones he's looking for.
These are not the bones you're looking for.
With what you have just told me about the organization, I don't think we want to try trick these people. I think that would end badly for everyone here.
What, he's gonna ring up, say we can't, job's off, we don't want to do this?
I think we should try to get in contact maybe with an organization that's not so into the creepy magical stuff. Maybe they could help us out, and we could just tell Dietrich that the bones weren't here.
Oh, and does Red Cross still exist?
Someone that directly opposes their goals, maybe.
Maybe
yeah,
someone
I've heard that the Draco Foundation is really against blood and toxic mages. What were you going to say, Giant?
I was going to say maybe someone in NAN. They pay to... We discover this problem they have, we fix problem, they pay us.
Yeah, but who?
Yeah, that is question. I do not know. We can look up people.
Let's just burn all the bodies and be done with it.
No, I don't think we come out here to not get paid. Massive waste of time.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will pay us for these bones, but probably not Creepy Dietrich.
The Draco Foundation idea, though, that sounds good. I have seen them in threads a couple of times. They seem like okay fellas.
Yeah, I've never worked with them, but, who hasn't heard of Draco?
You guys do what you want. I'm going back in the van for sleep.
Murdoch, take your fucking medicine.
Well, Kix can get to looking up suitable, interested parties, people who might be interested in, saving these remains from people who might want to do shady shit with them. I can look that up, I suppose.
Yeah, you can look up anything you want to.
Or start with anything that has been mentioned as a springboard.
Yeah, Draco is known for taking in, if you capture a really nasty blood mage or toxic mage, they'll pay you for them. So maybe we could try to get into contact with that department at Draco.
Mm-hmm.
See if they could put us in touch with the right people.
Yeah.
So I imagine they're pretty discreet, because they don't want the specific blood mage, that a team's going after to know that he's about to get got.
You can edit it.
Yeah, let me assist you as well. Hey, you got one more.
Yay!
Nice.
Okay, so 3 successes. Okay, like a lot of these guys have suggested, there are some that creep out immediately, that look for various mages of, particular specialities or interesting specialities when you look them up. Some of them are definitely better than others. Others that would pay well for mages who use strange traditions would be things like as technology, Seder Group, and a lot of megacorps would pay a lot of money for someone of a unusual tradition. But in general, just giving it to someone good is probably not going to net that much money, but even just bare information and credible evidence would be enough to get you like an audience with someone at the Draco Foundation or a number of other groups.
Honestly, with what we suspect of the priest, I don't give a shit about the money.
Exactly.
I'm not moving these bodies.
Well, we could.
Warren.
Well, the bones have already been like strewn about, right, Warren? Like a lot of them.
Yep. 8 bodies of like a full-grown adult male and female. Some of them, all of them around here are like actually human, but yeah, there's 8 scattered bodies and there's 8 intact bodies in coffins.
So we could put the bones that were scattered sort of like back together and like, sort of separate them out so they're individualized, and then
Wouldn't that take a couple of hours at most? At least, I mean, so.
Yeah, probably.
OCD right now, I'll do that for you guys.
It probably wouldn't take very long for Amber, though. Like, would it?
Well, if I can make a doll, I could probably summon a spirit to help me out. Or a few dolls.
Well,
it sounds like these bones have to leave this cemetery at some point. I know we don't want to desecrate the tombs or anything. Because if we leave him here, he's just going to hire another team of runners to come get him.
Yeah.
Maybe I think we should find out what's causing the creepiness on these bones.
Yeah, that might be above our pay grade. Maybe Draco can help us with that, or
Let them deal with it.
I think our next move should to be get in contact with someone. I think any moving of the bodies would be premature until we know who is paying us.
I think they're going to want to see one of the bones, though, as proof.
Yes, we can take some bones. That is no problem.
I can take a picture of my fly spy and send it to Kix via Snapchat.
Kix, if you could look up what kind of presence Draco Foundation has in NAN, how far away it would... Because Draco Foundation has, like, buildings in various cities and countries and shit. That you can actively just go to and talk to people.
Yeah, the Big D left them like $1 billion yen or something.
Yeah. They are ridiculously rich.
Yeah, well, I'll look up some contact information to like speak with someone, or like the nearest location of a...
Yeah, we could just roll up in there with the bone. That'd probably work.
So while you're doing this, by the way,
more ghouls.
No, not more ghouls. 2 individuals who you met a while ago start walking up the dirt path behind you guys, and while they do have weapons, they're clearly like, in their holsters at their sides, and they, should make a show of hands that they clearly don't want to fight anyone. And they turn up and they look you over and say, should have known. You guys need to meet someone. We'd prefer if you came with us peacefully, but there's a whole lot more of us outside if this needs to get ugly.
I do know everyone's saying that this might be the priest's doing. Out here, but it could be.
I doubt I mean, these are the equivalent of, like, Amarin cops, right?
Yeah, these are Amerindian cops,
Yeah.
They call them
These are
guardians.
the ones that stopped us on the road originally.
Yeah, these are the exact 2 that stop you on the
And I mean, the priest doesn't know we intend to not give him the bones, so it'd be weird for him to send someone to stop us.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, Giant immediately sheaths his shovel.
Do they have a direct line of sight of me from where they are? Like, if I tried to hide, would they be able to, like, pick me out?
Yeah.
I mean, they walked up to us, and you were just standing there.
Alright.
If they counted our numbers before, it would look weird if we were down a person.
Clearly not hostile in any way.
Yeah, but I don't trust them.
I just look around, and I mean, if she doesn't want to come, we could ask if he could stay here while we go with them.
Yeah, you can do that if you want.
I'm gonna roll judge intentions, even though I'm sure they're not lying.
As long as we can get back to the bus, I'm fine.
Okay. So you can tell that they're not lying, they're deeply concerned, and they're agitated.
These guys might have more information, I say in my micro beads. so these two folks don't hear us.
But they're not.
So the woman just says, "Come on, we need to get out of here quick."
Yeah,
Can't
Giant
linger
just
too long
walks
here.
off with him.
Don't have to tell Kix twice.
I ask if I can look after the buzz, or will they be putting men on it for us?
Well, they're gonna take you. He just says, "We're not going far. We're taking you to Meridian. There's someone who needs to see you."
And I DNI Murdoch and I say, Murdoch, leave fly spies. Or at least one.
Yeah, you can leave one fly spy here.
Yeah, one at the entrance of the place might not be bad either, or we could just keep it with us. Probably better with us, in case you need to sneak off.
Alright, so they take you back to the entrance of the cemetery. They tell you to get on the bus and to follow them in their squad car. And they head back to the same squad car you saw before, and they start driving off to the town of Meridian, which is just a kilometer or two down the road. Okay, after a while, they come into the small town. It's a very small town of like less than a couple hundred individuals. And they stop outside what appears to be a small business district of some kind. And they stop you here. They likewise get out of their car and indicate for you to get out of the bus. And they just turn to you and say, "Follow us." And they walk this way.
How many hours was it that we've been away?
Well, it only took you like maybe an hour to do everything that happened in the graveyard, plus get here, so...
Okay.
Alright, so as they come in, this guy comes up here and starts talking to the attendant at the door, who just sort of starts chatting to him, and he just nods to his partner, who keeps walking. Okay. So as you get in, you notice a couple of people you've seen before.
Oh, discounting pros.
So they give you dagger eyes for a moment, and they look to the Guardian as they start going to their guns, and she just looks at them and shakes her head. Then they begrudgingly just like stare daggers at you and like, just stare you down and do nothing else, and she keeps walking.
And Giant's just like, "Did you get my note?" I left note.
So she comes up here, and just can you all gather up for a minute, because I need to move you, because I didn't bother putting doors
You
in.
must gather your party before you may venture forth.
Oh god, don't move, guys, please.
Oh god.
Stop moving.
The roof.
Okay, so you get in here. And you find a elderly Amerindian man who's behind a desk for a moment. The woman comes up, whispers some things in his ear. He nods, and then she leaves. And then he just looks around for a moment and says, "Please sit."
Giant will
Kix
stand.
sits on the floor.
There's only like two of us that can fit in the chair properly, so...
Yep.
Can horses actually sit?
Well, they can like fold
Probably
their
not.
legs down and like sit down,
Yeah. It's kind of...
If you break your leg, do we have to like shoot you and put you down?
Oh, God.
Just give me wheels.
How much does glue sell for in the Shadowrun universe?
Oh, God.
If she pays me, I can keep levitate on her at all times.
Guys, I can sit on the floor. It's okay. Horses do that in the real life.
Are you sure? Isn't that a myth?
No.
I used to live on a stable, so...
I have seen horses sit on the ground.
Alright, so after a while, after you've all found where you want to sit, stand, or lean against a wall or whatever, the older man sort of looks you over for a moment and says, "I'm Chief Nanuk. I'm leader of this tribe, the Cascade Crows. My guardians tell me that they found you inside the old Christian cemetery. Is this true?"
That's true.
Yes, we were there.
What is your interest in this place?
Tex.
We're concerned about the desecration of the corpses that is going on.
He looks you over for a moment and says, "I believe you are mistaken. None of my people go anywhere near that place. It is cursed."
Yes, but it's full of ghouls, and they have no respect for the dead.
He shrugs and says, "I cannot do what men who are now beasts choose to do with themselves." and I will not jeopardize my people by fighting them. However,
Yeah, we didn't want you to. That's why we were there handling it for you.
Alright, so he shakes his head and says, I do not believe so. That place is cursed for a reason, and with good cause. No one would go there for any other reason, especially as far out of the way as you have very likely come. I do not know what tribe you come from. I have not seen your markings before. From where do you hail?
I'm from far to the east.
And down
So,
under.
so he just says, I'm familiar with many of the tribes of the Atlascan Council, and I do not know you. Are you from the Sioux Nation?
Yeah, Tex says, yes, I come from a tribe in the far eastern part of the Sioux Nation.
Alright, so he speaks something in a language that you presume is Sioux. So what do you say?
I'll say back in our common dialect that we don't speak that dialect of Sioux where I'm from.
Alright, so he looks at you for a moment curiously, and roll me a con check.
Wait,
Would you say we're?
don't you speak Cascade Crow?
It's not
I do,
Cascade
but he
Crow.
spoke Sioux.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Would this be fast talking?
Yep.
You can't make this any worse. I just start laying a massive shit where I'm sitting.
And I'm gonna edge that.
Mm-hmm.
Look,
7 hits.
Okay, he looks you over for a moment and says, very well, there are many dialects among the tribes. It is possible I do not know your people well. What is the name of the tribe? One that is so diverse, and he looks over Giant and Kicks and Firehead and says, must be one interesting indeed.
Yeah, Tex just makes up some name like the Black Hilltop people or something.
Mm-hmm. So
Backstreet Boys.
he nods his head for a moment and says, very well. Though your interest in that cemetery is still strange to me, none would go there willingly, not even to kill beasts who were once men. Do you not know what happened there?
You mentioned curse. What is this?
He says in a complete Russian accent.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so the chief just looks at you and says, very strange dialect indeed.
I was adopted.
Okay, so he sort of smiles, knowing smile, and says...
It's my adopted child.
He says...
Tex is just like rubbing his forehead at this point.
Yeah, he just says, all know of the great dance among the tribes. However, to those perhaps less enlightened, and he sort of smiles again, I will inform you a bit more. In the days of the war to free our peoples, much blood was shed, much more than is known to a great many. When the war came to this town many years ago, it was then a hub of the white man. They did not take kindly to the small tribe in the area. We used to live far to the north and here on a reservation. And he sort of spits on the ground and says, reservations, more like death sentences. However, once conflict broke out and the old president of the United States legalized the euthanization of our people, we had no choice but to fight back. The military fought against us. For 7 days, they came against us, and we fought back. Every day, more and more of our tribe were massacred, and every day, more and more of them died in respite. Eventually, with the power of the spirits, we managed to free ourselves, and the white man freed this area, except for those in Meridian who refused to leave. You must understand, vengeance gripped our hearts, as many of our people had died long ago. I too was but a child during those times, but I remember the horror of those ages. Our vengeance was swift, and the youth could not be contained, as they had lost fathers and brothers and sisters in the bloodshed. They came to the town of Meridian, and all those who had remained were put to the death, or put to the torch. The bones of those who were killed were placed inside the cemetery you know now. Ever since then, the cemetery has been cursed. Some creature, I know not what you would call it. I know many of the realms of the spirits. I have met beast, water, air, and earth, and man, and many more who do not come to my calling, and I know them all well, but this creature, it is not of this world, but it is not of the spirits either. It roams and devours the energies of that place and uses it as uses it to keep itself alive. What it is, I cannot name, but the place is cursed and has ever since been watched over by this creature. Lost souls also roam amongst the dead there. Whatever reason or whoever has sent you here, whatever they intend is ill will, to say the least.
I think we came to the same conclusion.
Yeah, so Tex replies and says, it sounds like we're on the same page, Chief Nanuk. I'd like to judge intentions in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's a hard man to read, to say the least. He very much, seems to be used to dealing with people, and he seems to know who you guys are now, despite your intentions.
All right, so Tex says, yeah, I think we're on the same page here, and you've been very straightforward with us, so I'm going to be totally straightforward with you. We were hired by a less than savory individual who, on his face, seems like as upstanding as they can come, but when you dig a little deeper, his story starts to fall apart. We have no intention of seeing through the deal that we made with him, as he withheld a lot of information from us. We intend to rid you of this curse and get the bones to a place of safekeeping with the right people.
So he looks you over for a moment and says, whatever reason brought you here, it seems it will be beneficial to us. This creature has long since plagued our people, and I will tell you all that I know of it. And should you remove this curse from our lands, I will reward you for your task.
Yeah, we would be happy to help out your tribe here.
So he nods and says, I will tell you all I know of this creature. Every few years, unexplained deaths occur in the area around that cemetery. Meridian is the closest town, so the frequency of the deaths are mostly concentrated around here. It seems to only go for those of Amerindian descent and seems to avoid all others. In particular, it seems to take the young, which has caused a great deal of distress among my people. Few have survived encounters with the creature, and while it seems to eventually kill all who dwell or enter the cemetery, as I said, every few years it seems to venture out to kill again. Why it does this, I do not know. It kills maybe 3 or so people every few years. In total, I believe, according to our shamans, its presence has touched the bodies of maybe 50 individuals at this point. Those that have survived encounters with it are few and far between, and there is only one currently in living memory. And it is my son, who tends bar here. I shall summon him. Give me a moment. And then he just sort of does an intercom, whispers for a moment, and this following man comes in. He just looks at him and says, tell them of the creature, son. And
I thought I said Batman, man.
Yeah, I
No,
thought the
Barman.
same.
So the man just looks over for you for a moment and says, like, he's kind of visibly shaken when he speaks about this. The creature is strange. It came from me when I was but a child of no more than 6 years old. I was playing in the playground near here, watched over by my mother. The other children had left with their parents earlier. While I was playing, this strange ghostly figure seemed to emerge from around us. The only thing I remember of that moment, as it was a long time ago, was a strange fog or mist seemed to descend on the playground out of nowhere, as if it rose from the ground itself rather than from the skies. Then the strange, ghostly visage of a man. I would say he would be Anglo-looking, though his face was desiccated and old. He was dressed in a strange suit. I do not remember, as if he had just risen from the grave. The best way I could describe it was a burial suit of some kind. When he approached me, his face was withered and worn, as if he was timeless or as ancient, older than my father by many generations. He reached out and grasped my head, and then I felt a ringing pain go through my body. He said nothing, and I could not resist. It's only when my mother shouted for me and came running that he seemed to look at her for a moment and then disappear. Though she said she could see nothing, she merely saw me on the ground writhing in agony, and when I was brought to a healer, he said I had some sort of aneurysm of some kind. When the shamans looked over me, they felt the presence of the creature and knew what had happened. Besides that, I cannot tell you anything else. He merely appears as a ghostly man, sort of like a desiccated corpse, and he merely touched me and I felt my life slowly draining from my body. After that, I cannot remember anything else. And then the chief sort of nods and says, do you have any other questions for my son?
Show me on the doll where he touched me. No, sorry.
I asked how long ago this was.
This was 20 years ago.
Okay.
When was the previous one to that?
He says the last one that has been touched by this creature and died was 3 years ago. A young child from another tribe not far to the northwest.
What's the intervals between the attacks? Is it random or?
There's no logic to this creature. Sometimes it takes a great many in 1 year, sometimes it can be dormant for decades. But all bear the same mark in the spirit world.
And you said this creature, it said nothing to you when it took hold.
It said nothing to me. It merely appeared as a perhaps ancient Anglo man or a desiccated corpse in a clean suit. It merely grasped the side of my head with its hands, held me, and immense pain went through my body as if my life was being drained. After that, I collapsed, and mist descended on the area as he did this. Before he appeared, mist descended on the area.
What colour was the suit?
Black and white.
Warren, if I get him to describe it more, can I roll my fashion knowledge skill to try to identify where it comes from?
Mm-hmm.
Actually took fashion.
Fashion knowledge.
Was it like a black suit and then a little white collar?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Oh, is it just priest robes?
No, it was not priest robes. It was like a normal suit with a tie. Basically, a closed suit with a white shirt and a black tie. Everything else was black.
What logo did he have on his shoes?
There was no logo on the shoes. There was no brand names on anything.
So this thing marked you, correct? In a way.
He says it touched me. The shamans of our tribe said that its essence had infused me. I do not know what they meant. My father explained that there was a lingering essence on me, though several years on, it seems as if any presence of this creature within my soul has long since dissipated.
Would you mind if I give it a look?
The chief just sort of nods and says, I allow it, if my son does. And the son just sort of looks at you for a moment and nods slowly.
Okay. What's the background count in here?
There's no background count in here.
Okay, so I get my Bonus.
Okay, so you can see a very small sort of feather, ancient and weathered, which is disintegrating slowly before you, and you can see that in maybe a few more years it will no longer be present. But there's the slightest sense that the exact same sort of pale visage, you can almost see like a strand, like barely above like a hair's breadth when you look very closely, uh, like that's sort of around this man and it sort of extends out and heads towards the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
very, very weak, almost to the point it's almost gone.
Mm-hmm. I say, yeah, the spirit's still connected to you, but doesn't seem to be for very long anymore. Dissipating, which is good news.
After people are killed and they are buried, nothing happens to their bodies, is correct?
He nods and says, "Those who are killed by the creature, we cleanse their souls, the shamans of the tribe, and we bury them or burn them as is the traditions of the tribe."
Has anyone ever been marked and not cleansed afterwards?
He shakes his head and says, "My son and only one more are the only living people who have been touched by this creature and survived."
You say one
The
more?
second person.
He looks down for a moment and says, "Me. I was touched. I was the very first victim of this creature long ago. As I said, I was a child when my tribe took vengeance upon the men of this village and killed them all. Soon after that, nearly a year, when I was but the age of 7, the creature came for me, and my father, who was the chieftain of our tribe at the time and a powerful shaman, fought the creature off."
Did
And
you?
he succeeded, because you're fine.
Yes, at great cost. He died soon after.
Was this creature originally an ally against the white man?
He shakes his head and says, "The spirit, or whatever this creature is unlike anything my tribe has ever seen before. And as I said, I'm awakened myself, and I have communed with the spirits. I have never seen anything like that. I have asked them and spoken to them in their realm themselves, and they know not what it is."
Amber, would you be able to look at the chief, maybe?
May I?
Yeah, you can look at him.
Ascension?
Yeah, he says, "Sir, sure." Okay, what's your degrees of success? 6. Okay. So looking at him, you don't see a strand, but you get an impression, and something does jump out at you in a surprisingly stronger way than what you saw before. So let me just get this ready for you, actually, because there was.
He's the demon.
He's a
Get
horrible
him.
racist.
He's
Yeah.
the demon host. Purge, purge.
Yep, sorry, I just had a thing ready. Give me a sec. Okay. So this is the thing that you see, Amber, that jumps out in your mind. If you look under the handouts, you'll see it. It's called Creature for You.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like
It looks like the G-Man.
For a brief second, that jumps out into your field of vision like a shock, if you know what I mean, and then fades very quickly. Like in less than a second. But that's the visage you see when you look in this man.
I'm trying to process this. So he doesn't seem to have the same strand as his son.
Now, the strand, if there was only one, has long since dissipated, but there's like a faint echo, which is surprisingly stronger, but a lot more well hidden. And when you like approached it, basically inside of his soul, that visage sort of popped up, and then like the image died, and like you can't find it anymore. If you know what I mean. So whatever was attached to this man's soul was destroyed when you touched it, and you got the briefest glimpse of whatever it was.
This thing is still attached to you in some way, Chief.
It's
I've
more like
seen,
it's more like it left an impression on him.
it's left some it's left some impression on you. I've seen something when I looked at you, and I tried to describe it as best I can, if they recognize it as the same thing that attacked them.
Yep. So he nods and says, they both nod to each other and look at you and say, yes, that matches the creature. Does
this resemble anyone else?
No, it's not like any man they've seen before or anything like that. But as you can see,
can I roll a memory check?
Yeah, you can roll a memory check. Yeah.
Would Amber be able to like help Kix do like a Google image search or something?
I don't know what we'd gain, really.
Okay, so no, nothing in your memory jumps out that you've seen this man ever before, if he is indeed a man.
I don't know about Shadowrun, but can curses be cast upon people?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a way, yes.
So the curse could be coming from the chief himself, but it somehow chose to inhabit the graveyard.
No. The chief's clean. It's just that the creature left an impression on you.
Okay.
The creature is probably born out of the fight between white people and Native Americans, and for some reason it's probably has something to do with the way that the people that are buried in the graveyard got killed. Manifested when they were all like combined into one spot, like all that negative astral emotion like combined to form a terrible critter.
That does sound likely.
I asked.
I would have edged this test if I had any edge.
I asked him how the massacre took place, if he can recall. Then
You already told us.
Right, yeah, but I meant like in specific detail.
He told you that after fighting for about a week with like the army and the militia and like the racist guys who came to his tribe to fight them, they managed to fight them off using the spirits because only they understood magic back then because they still practiced shamanism. Okay. So with the help of their shamans, they like fought off the U.S. Army and a bunch of other things, and then they took their vengeance on the town of Meridian. They basically gathered up all the white people who resisted or anything. They just killed some of them in fighting, but the ones that didn't resist, like women, children, old men, people who just surrendered, who thought they would show them leniency, because they'd lost so many of their people in the fight. They wanted vengeance, so they took it out on these random people and like massacred them to a man. They burnt some of them, they scalped some of them, they did all kinds of horrible shit to them. They mutilated the bodies, like lots of things, and then they burned them or just like threw them in piles inside the graveyard without much ceremony.
I asked him if he witnessed the event.
He was a child and he only remembers the fighting of his tribe, fighting for their life, and he heard whispers from like the other boys and little girls of his village about what they'd done, but he never saw like the carnage himself. But he knows what happened. His dad would never speak to him of it.
Alright.
We're going to a scalping today, Billy.
Oh boy.
Chief, do you think if we were to move some of the bodies, could it like weaken the spirit?
It's definitely marked the bones in some way. You do know that.
But all of the 48 bones we were sent to collect weren't all before. They weren't all around the time of the massacre, were they?
No.
No.
The ones that you found were probably exactly around the time, and it's likely because that area of the cemetery was in such disarray that that's very likely where they just, after the massacre, they just dumped the dead people.
Yeah.
But the other parts of the cemetery, some of them are used by other Christians since then, or even by Native Americans themselves. So some of the bones you're looking for are even Native American bones. And some of them are troll and dwarf and other things. It's just the 16 in there that seem to be the ones from that time period.
I don't know, maybe if we go back and take a look at the other sections and see how those bones compare to the older ones.
Well, they're going to be marked.
Yeah.
I don't know what else we're going to find.
Questions to ask?
Probably gonna have to kill this thing.
Most likely.
He would reward us. I'm cool down. I'm down with it.
Yeah, he said he'd reward you if you destroyed the creature or banished it or whatever.
And then we could give the unmarked bones back to the dude and get paid for that as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He probably wants the spirit, or at least something with the spirit's power. So, I say, what would happen if we were to take the 18 bodies from the older part of the grave and move them somewhere else? Would it lessen the spirit at all? Sorry, 16.
The chief just shakes his head and he says, "I do not know the nature of this creature. I cannot help you with more than what I've given you."
Okay.
I go downstairs and order a drink.
Barman's already here, mate, just ask him.
Yeah, I know. I take him downstairs to get me a drink.
Wow, it's like you drink me. All right.
Yeah.
One final request, Chief. Some of your fellow tribesmen were less than welcoming when we first entered your lands. If you could please ask them to not harass us on the roads, we would greatly appreciate it.
He shakes his head and says, "I'm sorry, it is the foolishness of youth. It has been many years since we have been in conflict with the white man, but some of our people still hold great resentment for those from Seattle or other lands. I cannot control the impulsiveness of youth, but I will tell them that you are not to be touched anymore."
And my apologies for those that were grievously injured in our fight.
He just nods and says, "They chose combat, you did not. It is their folly and their fault alone."
So, do you know the 4 that Dagger does? Those lot, yeah. I buy them all around.
Okay. They refuse to drink it. They just look at it and say nothing.
Okay, pour it on the ground.
How much will this cost me?
Probably about 2 Newen per guy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 12 Newen.
Okay, cool.
Well, if this is all information we can get, we should probably go back to graveyard.
I don't know if we've got what it takes. Maybe we need some backup.
Of course we got what it takes. You kidding? We're the best.
Yeah.
Drone just makes a happy buzzing sound.
Warren, in mechanics terms, without getting too deep, because this is some weird non-spirit thing, but did Amber, with her 6 hits on a sensing its signature, get any kind of sense of its power level? If she busts out the scouter.
It's over 9,000.
Yeah.
You can tell the entity is strong, but it's not overwhelmingly strong for you guys. Let's put it this way: it's not going to it's not like a force 16 spirit or something. It's reasonably strong. It's definitely going to put up a considerable fight, but it's not impossible.
I found one of those. I found one of those spirits before.
Couldn't I roll magical theory or something?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if anyone has arcane or magical theory, you could roll to try and. You know a lot about this spirit, so I mean, you could jog your memories and try and find if there's anything similar to this.
Yeah, I have arcana. Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't know shit. I almost critically glitched that.
Boom!
Okay,
Five
so
hits.
Amber, you have heard of things that may resemble this. Nothing in particular jumps out, like from word of mouth or what you've learned on the street about anything like this. You've heard about like you know some people claiming their houses were haunted, and while you were living in Seattle, like things where terrible things happened. You have heard of like spirits haunting things. Like some people believe that like lost souls and things like that are manifestations of like the essence of people when they die, and if they're unfulfilled, that they died in a particularly horrific way, they can manifest as like strange spirits in the astral, things like that. And sometimes they take on emotions of what they were feeling, or the general overture of things. And you can say, since such a considerable amount of people died in such a horrific way, and you felt an overwhelming tinge of like vengeance and anger and sorrow and other things in that graveyard, that perhaps the cumulative essence of these people's souls like formed this weird sort of free spirit of vengeance. Basically, it's a possibility. Like that's the only thing that you can see that jumps to mind. It could be something else entirely. Like you've never heard of them selectively hunting people like this, or draining souls or anything like that. So it could be something altogether, but you suspect it could be a free spirit of vengeance, which is a very rare form of spirit. Like a spirit which is based on emotion, which is basically like a spirit of man, which is taken on a particular emotion.
I asked the chief if he knows
You're a
anything
robot,
about.
like really robot. Yeah.
Or the Omniscient.
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
better. So, just to conclude, that is, spirits are still something of an unknown to this world. Like people try to categorize them, like hermetic mages in particular have tried to like organize things, but people have even tried to like map the astral and stuff like that to great expense. But what they figured out is the astral is very malleable, and things that were always considered to be static constantly seem to shift and change. So there's very few things in the realm of magic which stay the same. Some things are constantly being discovered. Even the spirits who live there, because there's so many different realms, don't know everything, or tend to only know things within their certain sphere inside the astral realms. So whatever this thing is, it could just be something that's never been seen before. It could be anything, but you have a good idea of what it could be, from what you've figured out so far.
That's why I think Murdoch is on to something. Separate the bones, and maybe not even the marked ones, because they died after this thing was created, but like separate the unmarked bones so that the power weakens. I think that makes sense.
Well, Amber would know one thing, that spirits, regardless of how they work in the astral or where they come from or how they were created, like for instance, mages don't know what souls are. Like souls are presumed to be a weird kind of spirit which is like made from the as I said, the emotions of people who died in particularly horrific ways or left this life unfulfilled, and like it manifested a spirit basically from their emotions and things like that. So no one really knows what souls or spirits actually are. But you do know one thing, Amber, that spirits, regardless of where they come from or what they are, they all act the same way on the physical plane. They still all have to obey the same laws to enter the physical plane, and they still obey the same rules while they're here. So whatever it is, it's still going to be able to be banished. It's still going to be able to be binded. It's still going to be able to be destroyed in some way or other.
Yep. I'm just.
Tex asked the chief, since he seems to be well versed in the shamanic tradition, if he knows whether or not the other spirits would be angered if we were to disrupt this free spirit.
He shakes his head and says, I would not call this creature a free spirit. Whatever it is bound to nothing we understand, but all I have spoken with the spirits, they avoid this and are as confused by it as we are. In fact, a great many of them are completely repulsed by it. No spirit will go anywhere near that cemetery unless forced to true service.
We might even get positive index.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it's not one of theirs.
If Amber doesn't like summon 5 spirits right in the middle of it.
I'm actually planning on summoning right now because background count is amazing.
Yeah, I'm just saying you may not want to subject your spirits to that place. It might piss them off.
They're still in their little twigs in my back pocket.
I like the way you keep them in twigs, so roomy.
I don't have dolls. If I had dolls, they would be in dolls and be able to walk around freely, but I don't have dolls. Give me dolls and they'll possess the dolls. Dolls are easier to possess than robots.
Don't worry, Amber. Murdoch will buy you a sex doll later.
Fuck you, Phil.
I'd love to imagine like Amber just walking around with a load of those blow-up dolls, like following her around.
Yeah.
Please make it happen.
I'm not the
army of
whore!
blow-up dolls. You're always the whore, Ariel.
Go fuck yourself.
You're not the whore, your dolls are the whores.
Hey, you could be the pimp this time.
That's an upgrade.
I asked the bartender if he can show us the location where he was attacked.
The location where he was attacked is just a playground in the center of town. It's not like far from here. It's only like maybe half a kilometer.
Okay, so he didn't actually attack people in the graveyard.
No, it's
the astral signature links back to the graveyard.
Yeah, all the astral signatures always link back to the graveyard, but this creature, like I said, every couple of years, like sporadically and randomly, seems to come out to hunt for some reason, or at least kills people in the area. Like about a 500-kilometer radius around it, it just seems to kill people. Well, not 500, like 200 or so.
Well, I say let's go to a playground. Let's make this even creepier.
And it seems to go for young people in particular. It's killed other people, but like 80% of its victims are those aged younger than 10 years old.
Ask if we can,
Is anyone
bring some kids.
younger than 10 here?
I have no idea. Maybe.
Don't know your age, Giant.
No. Giant could be a vat-grown thing for all the
Mm-hmm.
He's really young for an elf.
I'm very tempted to mind probe.
You say that every session. Can you stop being so creepy?
One day.
Does the bartender look like he can carry himself in a fight?
He has the markings of a shaman, so it looks like he's, been taught by his father how to be a shaman and things like that.
I ask if he wants to get revenge on the thing.
He just looks at you deathly pale and says, I will go nowhere near that creature.
Alright.
I'm very tempted to summon a spirit now.
I did know everyone being like, are we gonna go
I think we
look around
should
the
leave.
graveyard?
We could stay here, ask questions all day. It will get us nowhere.
Pretty sure
Yeah,
the chief
I'm
wants
sure
to get
you
rid
can
of us.
all come to your own opinions, especially the people who played Shadowrun for a while, for that what this thing might be. So
Honestly, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, so Tex says, well, if there's not anything else, we should probably be on our way.
Yeah.
Places to go, spirits to kill.
he nods and says, I wish you luck. It will not be easy, but if you are to survive and banish this creature, return to me and I will reward you, as I said.
You will see us soon.
Kix bows and asks for a blessing.
He's a shaman. He's not a fucking priest.
Yeah, but they do something, right?
Can you sustain increased reflexes on me?
Just look upon me with favor, Chief.
If you want to, he can put some war tattoo in your faces if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
She'll be imbued with shamanistic magic if you want.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's a bit against my tradition, so I'll politely refuse.
Giant's totally cool with this.
Yeah, I'll take some more paint.
So he draws like the symbol of the Cascade Crows on each of your cheeks, one by one, anyone who accepts.
Mm-hmm.
And, yep, that's it.
What's my magic rating now?
No magic rating. You don't know what this will do, if anything, but he says it wards against evil spirits, so maybe it will do something.
My katana becomes a weapon of focus.
I'm at the bar as well.
So you guys get down, and you're at the bar.
Fuck this, I'll summon a spirit of man.
We'll just do it outside the bar. Like, there'll probably be no background count outside either.
Yeah,
there's no background count in this area. The shamans, cleaned the background count over a laborious amount of years. Okay. Wow.
So basically, I go, for like 5 minutes, and then they all come out with this fucking war paint on.
Looking badass.
I don't even ask.
You jelly?
Oh. Totally confused.
We all got converted, she.
I tend to stay away from religion. Doesn't matter.